The shovel hit something hard, and Kofi frowned. He had been digging since sunrise, hoping to find water for his thirsty crops. Sweat rolled down his dark forehead, and the red dust clung to his skin. He bent down, brushing away the loose soil, then froze. It wasn't a stone. It wasn't a root. It was a human head. Its skin was smooth, its eyes open, alive, and its mouth stretched into the widest smile Kofi had ever seen. Then it laughed. Not just a chuckle, but a loud, echoing laugh that seemed to shake the very air around him. The sound was strange, neither fully human nor fully spirit, and it made the hair on his arms rise. "Kofi, I have been waiting for you," the head said, still smiling. Its voice was deep and playful, but there was something dangerous in it. Kofi's legs weakened. His shovel slipped from his hands. The head's laughter grew louder, bouncing around the walls of the half-dug hole until it felt like the whole earth was laughing. Then the head whispered, "Do you want the water you're looking for? Or the secret I've been hiding for 100 years? Before Kofi could answer, the head's eyes began to glow. The village of Akojua sat between two hills, surrounded by farmland and thick forest. The people were known for their kindness and unity. In the evenings, children played with old tires on the dusty road, and women laughed together as they pounded fufu in large wooden mortars. Men gathered under the great baobab tree, talking about politics, the harvest, and the price of yam in the market. Kofi was a quiet man in his late 30s. He was neither the richest nor the poorest farmer, but he was respected for his hard work. His late father had taught him the importance of two things: keeping your word and taking care of the community. Kofi had no wife, but his little niece Amma, whose parents had died in an accident, lived with him. She was 10 years old, with curious eyes that noticed everything. That year, the harmattan had been harsher than ever. The village well was almost dry, and women had to walk for hours to fetch water from a stream deep in the forest. Crops were dying. Children were falling sick. Kofi watched Amma return each day with a heavy pot on her head and dust on her feet, and his heart ached. One evening, during the elders' meeting under the baobab, Kofi stood up and spoke. "Our well is failing," he said, his voice firm. "I will dig a new one in my backyard. If we can find water there, everyone in the village can use it." The elders nodded in approval. Water was life, and anyone who found it was a blessing to the community. The next morning, Kofi gathered his tools: a shovel, a hoe, and a pickaxe. Amma followed him, insisting she would help. "Uncle, I can fetch water when you dig. I can even carry sand," she said proudly. The digging began slowly. The first few days were easy. Just soil and small stones. Villagers came to watch and cheer him on. Some even offered advice about where water might be. An old woman named Maabina, who claimed to know the spirits of the land, warned him to be careful. "Some places hide more than water," she said, her wrinkled face serious. "When you dig too deep, you might wake something that should stay sleeping." Kofi laughed it off. He had grown up hearing stories of forest spirits, cursed treasures, and wandering ghosts, but he believed only in hard work. By the 5th day, the sun was brutal. Kofi's back ached, and Amma had to fan him while he rested. But he refused to stop. The thought of a flowing well in his backyard gave him strength. That afternoon, his shovel struck something hard. He smiled, thinking it was just a rock he could remove. But when he brushed away the soil, what he saw made him stumble backward. Human head. It was not rotten, not decayed. The skin was smooth as if it had been carved from dark stone. The eyes were open and looking straight at him. And then, it laughed. Kofi's breath caught in his throat. The sound was loud, strange, and it seemed to come from everywhere at once. Amma screamed and dropped her water pot, the clay shattering at her feet. Kofi tried to climb out of the hole, but the head's eyes glowed faintly, holding his gaze like an invisible chain. Then it spoke. "Kofi, I have been waiting for you." Kofi's heart pounded so hard he thought it might burst. The strange head's voice was calm, but there was a heaviness to it, like the weight of many secrets. Amma clung to the edge of the half-dug well, her small hands trembling. "Uncle, what is that?" she whispered. Kofi swallowed hard. I don't know." His voice cracked, though he tried to sound brave. The head tilted slightly, its grin never fading. "You want water for your people, Kofi. But what if I told you that this land hides something greater than water? Something that can bring you more than the respect of your village, if you are bold enough to take it." Kofi's hands tightened on the shovel. He didn't like the way the head's words curled around him, tempting him like a sweet fruit. "I only want water," he said firmly. The head chuckled. "Water will save your crops, but my secret can make you a king." Amma shook her head violently. "Don't listen to it, uncle. Ma Abina said digging can wake bad things." The head's eyes flicked to Amma, and its grin widened. "The child fears me, but she does not know what I truly am. I am the guardian of the deep. I have been buried here for 100 years, waiting for the right hands to free me." Kofi's mouth was dry. "If you've been here for 100 years, how are you still alive?" The head's laugh was deep and unsettling. "In this soil runs the breath of the earth. Those who touch it live beyond time. But the price is heavy." Amma tugged at Kofi's arm. "Uncle, we should cover it back. Please." Before Kofi could decide, the head's eyes flashed bright gold. The ground beneath them trembled slightly, as if something huge was shifting far below. Then the head said slowly, "Choose, Kofi. Water for your village. Or my secret." The rumble under the earth grew louder, and a faint sound of gurgling water mixed with. Was that more laughter? Kofi's chest tightened. If he left it alone, the whole village might lose their only chance for water. But if he accepted whatever this secret was, he didn't know what might happen. He looked at Amma, who was staring at him with wide, terrified eyes. He looked back at the glowing, smiling head that seemed to know his thoughts. And then, the ground gave a sharp crack beneath him. The crack was loud, like a dry branch snapping under heavy boots. Kofi staggered, his feet sliding in the loose soil as the well's edge crumbled. Amma screamed and scrambled back, her small hands grabbing for anything to hold on to. A cold burst of air rushed up from below, carrying with it a faint smell, sweet but rotten like fruit left too long in the sun. The smiling head didn't move, but its laughter deepened, echoing through the shaft. "You cannot stop now, Kofi," it said. "You've broken the seal." Kofi's chest tightened. "What seal?" The head's eyes gleamed. "The one that keeps the thirst in." Before Kofi could speak again, the soil under his left foot gave way completely, and he fell to his knees. His hands scrambled at the dirt, but it was no use. The ground kept shifting, swallowing his shovel, sucking his legs deeper. "Uncle!" Amma cried, rushing toward him. "Stay back," he shouted. "Don't come too close." She froze, tears streaming down her dusty cheeks. Then, from the crack in the earth, something began to rise. At first it looked like thick tree roots, but when they moved, Kofi realized they were braids, long black braids of hair, twisting upward like snakes. They coiled around the walls of the hole, brushing against Kofi's legs without touching him. The head's smile grew wider. "These are the threads of the deep. Follow them and you will find the water, and me." Kofi's breathing was ragged. His mind raced. He could climb back up and seal the well forever, or he could keep going, deeper than any man in the village had ever dared. And then he remembered Amma's words from earlier, and Ma Abina's warning. Some places hide more than water. "Kofi!" a voice shouted from behind them. It was Kojo, one of the younger farmers, running toward the house. He had seen the commotion from the road. "What's happening? Is there water?" Kofi hesitated. If Kojo saw the head, the whole village would know by sunset. He wasn't ready to explain, not yet. The head's eyes shifted toward Kojo, and its voice dropped to a low whisper that only Kofi could hear. "Decide quickly, or I will decide for you." The braids of hair began to twitch, curling toward the surface. Kojo slowed his pace as he reached the edge of the well. He peered down, his brows knitting together. What in the name of our ancestors? Kofi quickly shifted his body, trying to block the view of the head. Kojo, it's nothing. Just a strange root. But Kojo wasn't convinced. That's no root, Kofi. I heard laughing from the road. Who's down there with you? Before Kofi could answer, the head spoke, its voice loud and mocking. Ah, another one has come. Welcome, Kojo. Kojo's face drained of color. By the spirits. He stumbled back, nearly falling. That thing spoke. Amma gripped Kojo's arm, her small voice trembling. We have to fill the hole back. Now. But the head only laughed, the sound rolling like distant thunder. The braids of hair uncoiled higher, brushing the edge where Kojo stood. Why cover me when I can give you what you've all been dying for? Water. Endless water. Kofi's hands were shaking, but he forced his voice to stay steady. And what do you want in return? The head's smile seemed to sharpen. Nothing you won't willingly give at first. Kojo stepped back farther. This is witchcraft, Kofi. We should call the elders. No. The word burst from Kofi before he could stop it. Amma and Kojo both stared at him. Kofi's mind spun. If the elders came, they might forbid him from digging further. Or worse, they might try to bargain with the head themselves. And deep inside, a dangerous curiosity was pulling at him. What was this thing? How could it be alive after 100 years? And what was this thirst it spoke of? The ground shivered again, a faint vibration that rattled the loose stones. The head tilted upward, its glowing eyes fixed on Kofi. The choice is slipping away. Soon the thirst will rise on its own. A sudden sound cut through the air. Crack, crack, crack. It was coming from below, from deep inside the earth, like something massive was breaking free. Amma whimpered. Uncle, it's coming up. The head's laughter grew louder, blending with the cracking sound. Kojo grabbed Amma's hand, pulling her back from the well. Kofi, we have to leave now. But Kofi stayed frozen at the edge, staring down into the pit, torn between fear and the strange pull of the mystery below. Then, without warning, a thin stream of water shot up from the darkness, splashing against his face. It was cold, ice cold, and it carried with it the faint echo of more laughter. The icy water dripped from Kofi's chin, and for a brief moment, hope flared in his chest. Water. The village's suffering could end. But the hope was quickly swallowed by unease. The stream wasn't steady. It pulsed like something was breathing beneath the earth, forcing it upward. The head's grin widened as droplets ran down its smooth forehead. You see. Keep my promises. But nothing flows here without my will. Kojo's grip on Amma tightened. Kofi, this is wrong. Water from the spirits always has a price. You know the stories. Kofi did know the stories. Old folktales told of cursed rivers and lakes that swallowed entire villages when bargains were broken. But there was something different here, something more personal. The head wasn't just offering water. It was choosing him. What is this price? Kofi asked cautiously. The head's voice dropped, slow and deliberate. One life. One heartbeat given willingly to the deep. It need not be yours. Amma gasped and stepped back. Kojo's face twisted in horror. So this is it. You're nothing but a blood spirit. The head chuckled. Call me what you wish. But your village will not survive another moon without me. The air grew colder, the faint stream of water snaking into the dirt around Kofi's knees. He could almost hear it soaking into the thirsty ground. The thought of children drinking clean water again tugged at him. But so did the image of giving up someone's life. Kojo shook his head. We're going to the elders. They must know before it's too late. But the head spoke again, and its tone was almost mocking. The elders will argue. They will waste days. And while they speak, the thirst will spread. Your niece will grow weaker from carrying heavy pots. Your crops will wither to dust. And when they finally decide, it will be too late. The words dug into Kofi's mind, planting seeds of doubt. Amma pulled at his arm. "Uncle, please don't listen. We can find another way." Kofi stared at the head. "If I refuse you, will you go back to sleep?" The smile faltered just slightly, but only for a heartbeat. "I will wait. But the thirst will not." From deep below, the cracking sound returned, louder now, followed by a deep low moan that seemed to come from the ground itself. The braids of hair writhed slowly, curling up toward the surface like roots seeking light. The head's golden eyes locked onto Kofi's. "The seal is breaking with or without you." And then, without warning, the earth beneath his feet collapsed. The ground gave way so suddenly that Kofi had no time to grab the edge. He plunged into the darkness, the cold air whipping past his face. Dirt and stones scraped his arms, and somewhere above, Amma screamed his name. He landed hard on a slope of wet soil, sliding down until he crashed into a shallow pool of freezing water. Gasping, he pushed himself up, his hands sinking into thick, sticky mud. The faint golden light from the head's eyes shone somewhere above, casting eerie shadows along the damp tunnel walls. "Kofi!" The voice was closer now, surrounding him. "Welcome to the deep." Kofi looked around, his breath fogging in the frigid air. The walls of the tunnel weren't just dirt, they were lined with strands of that black braided hair, pulsing faintly as though alive. The air carried the sound of dripping water, and faint, distant whispers. Above him, Kojo's voice echoed. "Hold on, Kofi. I'm getting a rope." Amma's voice followed, frantic. "Uncle, climb back up. Please." But before Kofi could answer, something cold wrapped around his ankle. He looked down and froze. A braid of hair, slick and wet, was coiling around his leg. He kicked hard, but the braid tightened, dragging him toward a darker opening in the tunnel. From inside, the whispers grew louder, overlapping until they became an almost unbearable murmur. "Kofi," the head's voice whispered from the shadows ahead. "Do you feel it? The thirst is close to waking." He dug his hands into the mud, trying to resist as the braid pulled him inch by inch. His nails tore against the grit, but the pull was too strong. Suddenly, his fingers touched something solid, smooth and curved. He dug faster, uncovering a strange object buried in the mud. It was a small gourd, sealed with a waxy black stopper. Carved into its side were symbols he recognized from Ma Abina's charms, the signs used to trap dangerous spirits. The braid around his leg twitched violently, almost as if it knew what he had found. Above, Kojo shouted again, "Kofi, take my hand." But Kofi wasn't sure anymore. If this gourd was a seal, breaking it might free something far worse than thirst. Keeping it might keep the village safe, but also dry. The braid yanked again, harder this time, pulling him toward the darkness. Water splashed into his mouth as he struggled to breathe. And then, the whispers in the tunnel stopped. A silence so deep it made his ears ring filled the air, followed by a single booming laugh, right behind him. The laugh rolled through the tunnel like a wave, shaking the walls and sending droplets of icy water down on Kofi's head. His spine went rigid. Slowly he turned his head, and there it was. The smiling head, no longer buried, floated in the air just behind him. Its eyes burned brighter than before, the gold so intense it made the black braids shimmer. "You've touched the seal," it said, its grin stretching unnaturally wide. "Now you must choose, break it or be swallowed by the deep." The braid around Kofi's leg tightened until he felt his bones strain. Pain shot through him. Above, Amma's voice echoed again, desperate. "Uncle, please come back." Kojo's voice followed, strained with panic. "Kofi, what's happening?" Kofi's mind raced. The gourd was warm in his hands now, as though something inside was alive. The carved symbols seemed to pulse faintly, the grooves glowing the same gold as the head's eyes. "What happens if I break it?" he demanded. The head chuckled. "The thirst will be quenched forever. Your village will flourish, and I will be free. And if I don't? The head's grin faltered for the first time. The thirst will come for you instead. The braid began pulling harder, dragging Kofi toward the dark opening. He could feel the cold water deepening as he slid closer, the whispers starting again. But this time they were calling his name. Kofi. Kofi, join us. The tunnel shook again, a rumbling deep below. Small rocks tumbled from the ceiling, splashing into the pool. The braid around his leg began to split into smaller tendrils, each wrapping around his waist and arms, pinning him. He gritted his teeth, clutching the gourd with both hands. He could smash it against the wall in seconds. If the head was telling the truth, the village would never go thirsty again. But if it was lying, he might unleash something that could destroy everyone. The head tilted its floating face, as if reading his thoughts. Do not pretend you dig only for water, Kofi. You want more. You want to be remembered. Break it, and you will be. His breathing grew ragged. Part of him wanted to throw the gourd away and climb back up, but the braid held him too tightly, and the darkness ahead seemed to pulse with a terrible hunger. Above, he could hear Amma's cries growing weaker. Kojo's voice was still calling to him, but even that was fading under the sound of rushing water from the darkness. The head leaned closer, so close Kofi could feel its cold breath. Well, it whispered, will you save them, or keep them thirsty? Kofi's hands trembled, then he lifted the gourd above his head. And in that moment, the braid yanked him fully into the darkness. The darkness swallowed Kofi whole. Cold water surged over his head, and the whispers became screams, thousands of voices crying out at once. His lungs burned as the braid dragged him deeper, twisting tighter around his chest. The gourd was still in his grip, its warmth now almost scalding. He kicked and thrashed, but the water here had no bottom. It was like falling through liquid air. Then, through the churning blackness, the head appeared again, floating before him. Its smile was calm now, almost gentle. Break it, Kofi. End the thirst. Kofi's chest felt like it would burst. He thought of Amma, her small body bending under the weight of water pots. He thought of the elders, weary from walking miles to the stream. He thought of the withered crops, the cracked lips of thirsty children. His mind screamed against it. This thing is not to be trusted, but his heart was heavy with the burden of their suffering. With the last of his strength, Kofi smashed the gourd against a sharp rock buried in the watery depths. It shattered with a muffled crack, releasing a blinding burst of golden light. The braid around his body recoiled violently, unraveling as if burned. The water rushed upward in a violent current, pulling Kofi along. He burst from the ground like a man shot from the belly of the earth, landing on his back in his own backyard. Amma and Kojo rushed to him, their eyes wide with shock. But before they could speak, the ground around the half-dug well erupted. Water gushed out in a roaring column, pure and clear, flooding into the dry earth. The smell of fresh rain filled the air. The villagers came running, shouting with joy. Women knelt to scoop the water into their pots. Children splashed and laughed, and the elders blessed Kofi for saving them. But Kofi's eyes were fixed on the well. The head was gone. Or so he thought, until he saw it again, just for a moment, floating far below in the water's depths. It was still smiling. And then he heard it, faint but clear enough to freeze his blood. I keep my promises, Kofi. Remember one life before the year ends. The laughter rose from the depths, mingling with the cheers of the villagers who had no idea of the bargain that had just been made. Kofi forced a smile and hugged Amma tightly, hiding the tremor in his hands. The village was saved for now. But deep inside, he knew the real price had only begun to count.